Are your darkroom prints looking kind of dull? Are you just sick of mediocre, lifeless prints? Well, I've been darkroom printing for over 30 years now.
My God, you're old, man.
And the 3 tips I'm going to share with you today have made such a significant and improvement on my prints that I feel obligated to share them with you. Now, these tips are going to help you take your prints from dull and lifeless to glowing works of art. So if you want to create something more than just mere mediocre prints, this one is definitely for you. Welcome to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Matthew, and I absolutely I'm obsessed with darkroom printing and helping other people make creative. Now, all 3 of these tips have to do with evaluating your prints. This is often overlooked by new printers, but it's probably one of the most important parts of this whole darkroom printing thing. In fact, there is mention of this in nearly every great darkroom book I have, so dealing with this problem is quite important. This all has to do with the so-called print dry-down effect.
There's no such thing.
Well, some people say there is, and so I will cover it, what it is, and more importantly, what to do about it. You've probably had a print look really amazing in the wash when you're still in the darkroom, only to find that on drying, you come back to it and it looks much more dull and drab. And this happens because of a few different reasons. Tip 1, use a dim initial inspection light for your initial evaluation. The reason for this is kind of simple. When you are in the dark up to the point of turning on the lights, going through the whole printing process, you've been in the dark for quite a while, and your eyes are going to adjust to the dark and open up. Your pupils will dilate, your brain's gonna be able to process things in the dark better. But what happens is when you turn on a bright light and you initially see your print in the fixer or in the water in that bright light, it is going to appear brighter than it actually is. Oftentimes I'll go in the darkroom after being outside on a sunny day and I literally can't see anything for the first few minutes. I'm bumbling around, stumbling, trying to just let my brain adjust. And then after a minute or 2, it starts to get better. And then eventually I can basically see everything in my darkroom just under the safe lights. That's your eyes adjusting over time. And once your eyes are adjusted to that dark light, if you just pop bright lights back on, everything's gonna appear a little bit brighter than it is. And so you need to have kind of a dull light for your inspection. Otherwise your prints are gonna appear brighter than they are. And once you have this initial impression of your print being brighter than it is, it's really kind of hard to get that out of your head and work backwards. So it's important to do this from the get-go. So how do you do this and how dim should your light be? Well, that depends. One sign that your light is too bright is if your prints keep turning out darker than you anticipated. Either try a lower wattage bulb or move it further away from your initial inspection area, your trays or your fixer or your water tray after the fixer. Tip number 2, squeegee the water from your prints for a better initial evaluation. The reason for this is because the water or fix on the print emulsion hides the delicate highlight detail in your print. The moment you squeegee away that layer of water, highlight detail will start to kind of reveal itself, and you can see it immediately. So I use a piece of acrylic and a windshield wiper as a squeegee for this, but you can also use like a flat bottom tray or anything else similar and suitable. It's at this point that I start to kind of make some judgments and decisions on further exposure and contrast adjustments, but it's really not until I do a critical evaluation using tip number 3, which is dry your prints to evaluate them under normal viewing conditions. And the reason for this is that highlight detail will subtly change upon the paper fully drying. This is much more apparent with fiber-based paper than resin-coated paper, but I would recommend you still do it for both. So it does seem that your eyes are more sensitive to slight changes in highlight areas, and this is the key to getting your highlights perfect, especially when delicate highlights are involved. So what I do is I squeegee and dry my prints with a hair dryer. I find this works personally best for me, even with the fiber-based paper. Now, if you choose to do this, just be careful with the hair dryer near water in the sink. I also have GFI outlets installed in my darkroom around the sink just for that extra protection and purpose. But I do know many people that also use a microwave for 1 to 2 minutes, and you might want to break that up into like 15-second zaps. And some people do that. I just find the hairdryer works really well for me. It goes just as quick in my opinion. Then once the print is sufficiently dry, I take it out of the darkroom and evaluate it under proper lighting. Now I do have some track lighting and set up specifically for prints in my living room, as well as diffused window light mimicking an average kind of wall luminance. So usually there's like a happy medium between them, and I give more or less exposure and will make a contrast adjustments based on that. These 3 steps are critical for getting your prints to look their absolute best and will ultimately save you time and paper in the long run. It's also important to make a quick note that different paper emulsions will behave slightly different than others. So it's important to get to know your materials, how they'll react to these different, like once they're dry versus wet. And you can do this simply by taking a wet print and reinserting it halfway into the water. And you will be able to kind of see, okay, the highlights are definitely brightening on being wet, and then squeegee it off and you can evaluate that way. And you can even make initial exposure adjustments based off the print being in the tray if you want to. I tend to like to just dry it down, see how it's gonna look finally and make adjustments from there. But that would be one quicker way to do it if you wanted to. I would also say that fiber-based papers tend to have more dry down than resin-coated papers, so they do need a little bit more care when judging. And if you want to see more tips on making your first darkroom print, check out this video right here.